Good evening and welcome to True Dugman Encounters. I'm your host, Marvin Allen. If you or anybody that you've known have had a sighting or encounter and would like for me to share it on my channel, then please contact me. I would love to hear from you. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. Like, comment, and subscribe. For all of y'all that's members of the Facebook, if you haven't joined or subscribed to my YouTube channel, please go over and do so and become a member there too. As you all know, I have been putting out encounters and I'm going to continue to keep doing them. I'm going to stress it again. When it comes to this topic, when it comes to these cryptids, there are no experts. There are none. If they want to believe that they are, then let them stay there. But they are not. Especially the ones who just sit behind a desk, never been out in the field, never saw one firsthand. Never saw one firsthand. But yet they call themselves an expert. Oh, this is this. Oh, this is that. I'm telling you, I know this for a fact. No, it's not. That's why I say when someone tells you something or you listen to something and they say it's this, do your research and come up with your own conclusion. You know, because some people lead you to a cliff. I never said I was an expert when it came to this. I'm young when it comes to this, just a few years. But I found something that I'm good at. I found something that makes me whole. You know, I found something that keep me from not going back to where Marvin was. So I'm going to stay on this path. I'm going to keep giving y'all encounters and sightings. Like I said, I got pictures that I never released before of my own. I have recordings, which I'm going to upload a recording. I'll probably do it tonight. And like I said, I want y'all to give me y'all opinion on what y'all think it is. If you don't know, you don't know. It's nothing wrong with that. But I want y'all to give me your honest opinion when I upload it, please. I want you to comment and tell me what you think it is. But if you don't, then you don't. As you all know, anonymity means a lot to me. And I breaks that for no one or nobody. I will never do that. So without further ado, let's jump right into this first encounter. Now, this first encounter right here, it comes from an eyewitness who has a good job, good background. And when I got this encounter from her, she asked me, you know, not to use her name, her location. And I told her I don't do that anyway. I sticks to that. So she said this happened in the summertime, around August. She said she invited a few friends over to have a little, little cookout. So they come out, she throws stuff on the grill, she cooks it up, and they sit down and they talk. While they sitting down and they talking, one of her friends said to her, because mind you, it was a light breeze blowing that she said this particular day. It was just a cool breeze. her friend said to her, she said, do you smell that? And my eyewitness was like, smell what? She was like, smell what? She said, I just smelled something awful. She said, what you mean? Only thing we've been doing was grilling. She said, no, I just caught a whiff of something awful. So they go back and forth, back and forth. You know, then they dropped the subject. They continued to talk. As they continued to talk, my eyewitness said, her friend said to her, she said, what is that over there? My eyewitness said, what? What is what over where? So they looks over there in the direction where she said her friend said, look. And when she looked, they see something. And she said it was down low. She said there was a lot of brush right there near the wood line. It was down low. And it was like peeking in their direction like it was watching them. So my eyewitness said, I don't know what that is. Now at this time, they just see a dark. I mean, she said dark. A dark image of something, but they don't know what. So they continue to look. That's when my eyewitness said she sees ears pop up. And when she see ears pop up, the first thing came to her mind was that must be a dove. And when they look, they see the head come up just over this brush. And when they look at the head of this thing, my eyewitness said the head on this thing was so massive. She never saw a head on a dog like this. She said this head was huge on it. So they just looking. And they say this thing, what they think is a dog, continue to watch them. Now, mind you, my eyewitness said it could have been attracted to the smell of when they was grilling earlier. So they watched this huge head come up over this brush. They said that's when this thing, what they thought was a dog, start moving its ears. Like it was moving it, like it was listening for something. That's when my eyewitness and her friend, they got up and they stood, but they stayed looking at this thing. They said when they stood up, that's when this thing head came up a little more over top of the brush. And when it came up over top of the brush, they said that's when this thing tilted its head back and started to sniff. They said it started to sniff the air. Like it was smelling for something. But mind you, the grill been off. The coals are out. So they wasn't grilling at this time. But maybe she said it was attracted to the aroma that was still around in that area. They said this thing stopped sniffing and then it went back down low. It went back down low behind the brush. And they said to themselves, where did this thing go? Where is it at? My witness said that's when she could see the brush started to move. When it started to move, she said she could see a large snout just come out of the brush. And then it went back in. She said, then it went back in fast. That's when my eyewitness said, oh no, come on, let's go in the house. They got their stuff together and they went inside of the house. Now, mind you, now on her back patio, she got those sliding glass doors. They goes in. They shut the door and they locks it. My eyewitness and her friend, they stand there and they continue to look in that direction where they saw this thing at. She said after a few minutes, that's when they seen the brush start to move, like real heavy, like it was moving back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And my eyewitness said, what is that thing doing? That's when she said, this thing walked to its right upon that brush. And when it came to an opening in that brush, she said that's when it started to come out on all fours. That's when they both gasped. She said when this thing came out on all fours, she said this was the biggest dog you have ever seen in your life. She said this thing was massive on all fours. She said, but the body structure was off. It wasn't built like a dog body was built. She said the upper part was massive. She said it was broad, it was wide. And as it went back towards the buttocks, tail, and all that, it's like it was slimmer down. But it was down lower than what the upper part was. She said that's when it started to walk out. When it walked out over there near the grill. And it started to sniff. And it walked around on the other side and it started to sniff. Now this is the part she said that haunts her. Just one of the parts that haunts her to this day. She said this thing lift up what she said was a hand. She said this thing lift up what she said was a hand. And when it lifted up, she said this thing grabbed the handle of this grill. And it kind of fumbled with it. She said this thing had to be intelligent. It had to be smart. Whatever it was, she said it was like it knew what it was doing. So it was fumbling with the handle of the grill. Then it pulled its hand back down and put it back on the ground. It walked over to the other side. And when it walked over to the other side, it started sniffing. Because that's where she keep her trash at. It started sniffing. She said that's when this thing stood up. And she said she liked the on herself when it did that. She said this thing stood up on its back legs. And it took the top off of her trash can. And it reached in there, it started fumbling through the trash. And she said she guessed when it didn't find anything. She said that's when it just swiped one good time. Boom! Hit the trash can and knocked it all over. Knocked trash all over the place. Her friend said, look, I don't know what that thing is, and I need to go home or we need to call somebody. She said, call somebody like what? What are we going to tell them? You know the kind of work that we do. You know that. We can lose our job, get fired for this. You don't know. What we going to call in and tell them that we see a werewolf in the backyard and it's walking around looking for food? How do that sound? Then her friend was like, you right. You right. She said, but I have to get home soon. She said, okay, but you can't go now because this thing is out there. She said, that's when this thing turned. Walked back the other way it came, and it stopped in front of the patio porch. When it did that, that's when she closed her blinds. She closed the blinds on the patio door. She said that's when she can hear this thing walking up her steps. Boom, 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 boom. Stops when it get to the top of her patio. When it get to the top of her patio, she can still see out the crack of her blinders. And she see how massive, how tall, and how big that this thing is now. She said that's when this thing make a low, guttering growl that they both felt. They said that's when it walked up a little further and was just on the other side of that patio glass door. They backed up some, but they still looking out the crack of this curtain. And they still can see this silhouette of this massive creature now. So they looks and they listen. They stand there because they scared, they in shock, they can't move. Said that's when they say they see this creature raises his arm. And he reaches over to the glass patio door. And he started to tap. They said it did that. Then it took its claws. She said whatever they was on the tip of his fingers. Said it took that and it scraped it down the patio glass doors, making this eerie sound that they both couldn't take. It did that. Then it continued to tap on the glass again. Did that. Did that. Did that. They both back up some more. They say that's when this creature went over and tried to fumble with the door. it tried to fumble with the door and tried to slide it to the side. But it wouldn't budge. It would just go, because it was locked. And then it stopped. It's like this thing got irritated. It made another growl, but this time it was more powerful. They back up some more, but they still watching this creature. My witness said that's when this creature turned. And it just, she said she could see the body just, like it just leaped. Boom! And hit the ground. She said she could hear it. She said she could hear this creature when it hit the ground. That's how powerful, how heavy, and how massive this thing was. And they could hear this creature just walk away back into the tree line. They said after about 15 minutes of standing there, shocked, couldn't move, they walks over to the patio door and they look. They see no sign of it. She walks her friend to the front door, goes out, makes sure she gets in the car, she pulls off and leave. But mind you, before she pulled off and left, she told her, she said, please do not tell anyone of what you saw here today. Please promise me that. And she said, I promise I won't. I won't. So her friend left. Now she home alone. So she say she retired for the night. She goes in her room and she lays down. And when she lay down, she said about 3 in the morning, she hear a loud thump. And the thump coming from on top of her roof. That's when she hears something walking bipedal on her rooftop. Boom, 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 boom. And then it stopped. She say she balls up in the bed because she's scared. She's terrified now. It walks back to the other side. Boom, 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 boom. And then it stopped. She say she sits up in the bed. She said that's when she hear another thump. Boom. And it landed on the side of our house. And it started to walk. It started to walk around our house. She gets up, she leaves out. She goes near the living room. And just out her window, she see this silhouette walk past. She looks at the front door. That's when she said this thing started to turn her doorknob. It started to twist the doorknob like it was trying to get in her house. She said that's when she was fed up, that's when she was scared, and she called the police. She called them and told them that she thinks somebody is trying to break in her house. And she said, they asked her, did you see anybody? She said, no, I kind of. Can you please send somebody out here? So she's staying there. This thing is not twisting the doorknob no more. She hears nothing. She sees lights pull up in the driveway. It's the police. He gets out, knocks on the door. She opens and let him in. She tells them, somebody was trying to get in my back door and then they tried to get in my front. And they asked her, did you see anything? She said, all I know is that it had on all black. And the police said, it? What you mean, it? She said, oh, I mean, the person had on all black. So she said the police looked at her strange when she recanted what she said the first time. That's when he said, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to look around and see if I can see anything. He goes out, checks her perimeter and everything, walks around our house, looks, shines his lights. He sees nothing. Nothing. So he took her report. He said, if you have any more problems, just call in. And she said, okay. He left. She goes back, makes sure everything's locked up. She goes in her bedroom. She can't sleep because now she's terrified. Sit up all night. Next day comes, she get up, makes her breakfast, she eats, and then she goes outside to smoke a cigarette. When she goes outside to smoke a cigarette, she's sitting there. She said after about 15 minutes, she see this thing standing up beside a tree, looking right over in her direction. She said that's when she just froze. She plucked the cigarette. She started to walk backwards because she had her patio door open so she can go back in. She started walking backwards towards her patio door. She said that's when this creature comes out the wood line and it's walking. It's taking broad steps. And then it stops. She said when it stops, it stares at her. And it looks. She said she could see the nose and the lip like a dog crinkle up there, lip and stuff. She said that's how this thing was. She said it looked at evil. It looked at like it wanted to do something to her. She said that's what she thought, that this thing wanted to hurt her. She backed up some more, up in the patio door into the house. And she just stand there. She said that's when this creature started to run faster. She hurried up, shut the door, she locked it. And it stopped on a dime. She said this thing stopped on a dime at the bottom of her patio steps. And it stood there, looking at her with them evil, amber color eyes, she said. She said the arms on this thing was just long, too long. Like they was out of proportion of his body. She never seen arms that long with these huge hands with claws that look like talons. She said it just stood there. And it watched her. She said she watched this thing. She said she terrified, she's scared. She stayed by herself and she don't know what to do. She said that's when she closed her curtains because she didn't want to look at this thing no more. She didn't want to stare in the face of evil. She said she watched this thing through the cracks of a curtain. She said that's when it turned around. It dropped down to all fours. And she said this thing bolted like a bolt of lightning. Shot back to the tree line and went back up in there. She nervous, she scared, she confused because she don't know what to do. She say she goes on the internet. And when she goes on the internet, she try to find out information on what she saw. So she punch in werewolves. And she find out some things. That these things really do exist. She said, but she didn't want to call people out to her property. She didn't want that to get out. because of the work that she do. She said, but she had to do something because this thing is living right in her backyard. So what she said she did, she got in touch with somebody.